Hello, hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel and my video. My name is Louisa and I'm making this from Queensland in Australia. It is a beautiful day today because we finally got some rain. For folks who follow the mass media news, you will have known that there's a lot of drought in Australia and a lot of fires. A lot of people have been losing homes and yeah, it has been quite traumatic for the country. There's been a lot of fear and negative frequency around because of the weather. So to finally get rain on Christmas Eve was like a gift from the heavens, and I'm sitting here in nature today with the beautiful wet smell of the earth that's been saturated for several days now. So super grateful for that. It's good timing. It felt as if, you know, the last year, if not decade, was really building to a big head of pressure for all of us. And that's as it is at this time when all the darkness is being brought into consciousness for us all to assess. And that's mirrored in the weather patterns as well. So this incredible pressure was building, finally released around Christmas time. I think the solstice, Christmas and the solar eclipse on the 26th, which was yesterday, brought in a concentration of that energy for all of us. So for some of us, we will have felt a lot of heart opening, and I felt myself a deep sense of appreciation around Christmas time. Appreciation for simple things, for love, connection, sharing good food, for the rain. Yeah, a deep appreciation, the kind of peaceful, wholly satisfied appreciation that, you know, we all want to connect with. That's one of the highest emotions that we're trying to cultivate individually and collectively. So it's nice to feel that, and I felt that that was a collective thing. It wasn't just my energy. For some other folks, it manifests as troubled times, difficulties, intense negative emotions. So anyway, it feels like a bit of a pressure's been released now that we've passed through those three portals. The energy will remain for some time at its intensity up until the 6th of January, I believe, for the solstice energy. So this is a great time to cultivate your intentions. We have a whole new decade ahead of us, 2020, and even people who seem to not be awake or conscious of what's happening on the planet are saying things to me like, you know, next year is going to be amazing. I think there's something in the air with that, a shared collective vision for 2020 that's going to be really beautiful, really powerful. So it's a good time to hook into that. I will be making a video on intentions for the new year, but maybe today is more about a little bit more of that clearing out of things that no longer serve us, to be ready to open ourselves up for that new energy that's coming in. It's already here, that new energy, but some of us have yet to tap into it because there's stuff that's still sitting in our energy field, our emotional body, our mental body, our physical body, that is blocking that light and that energy from reaching us. So the video today is really about forgiveness. I wanted to talk it's just something I've obviously come to this planet to learn is the depth of possibility of forgiveness. What does forgiveness really mean? And I guess I wanted to, you know, I struggle with the word forgiveness. I think it's been hijacked in a sense. Could be religion has hijacked it. Father, forgive us for our sins kind of a message that got through. There is a message that came through traditional conservative Christianity and possibly through the other ones as well. I don't know an awful lot about other religions, but I was raised not strictly Anglican, but you know, around Christian mythology, and I was brought up in a Catholic school in a Western culture in South Africa, so that was our predominant religion, and I know that the message was taught down through the ages of that religion that humanity, we have sinned, and it starts with the leaving the Garden of Eden. We've sinned and we need to make amends for that, and the only one that can forgive us is God. So the sense of being soiled and stained and requiring forgiveness. Now, it's not wholly untrue, but what religion did with all of these creation myths, these stories that go way, way back in time, is they distorted them and used them for their own purposes to control humanity. And in a nutshell, the control comes from convincing the people, the common people, that they do not have the power themselves, so that the power comes from an external source, which is why we've got ourselves so tangled up with this idea of God, and why so many people have rejected the idea of God altogether, because on some deep level they were really dissatisfied with this idea that an external being had control over us. And I would say to those people that they are correct in that understanding, that that is a distorted view, and it is an untruth. It's been perpetuated to control people and to make them feel less than. So this idea of forgiveness, that's the point I was trying to make, is that the word itself has been tainted through religion. So it's coupled with the idea of doing wrong, that when we do wrong, we require forgiveness. And one of the ways that that is played out is in the confession box in Christianity. When you have sinned, you go to the confession box and you confess to the priest of your wrongdoing, and then the priest forgives you on behalf of God. So, even though forgiveness is a very high virtue and a very beautiful and important thing at this time on our planet, we really need to forgive to move beyond the old stories so that we can create the new earth. So it is an important concept, but I feel like the word is not always usable for people because of these negative connotations that I've described, because of this idea of wrongdoing. Now, that's the macrocosm that I'm presenting, the larger story. If you zoom down into a conflict between two people, so think of someone in your life that you feel has done you wrong, and you're working on forgiving them. Now, quite often in those types of relationships, the opposite is true for the other person. They believe that you've done wrong to them, and that they must forgive you. And from each perspective, the other seems outrageously untrue. Now, I did speak about this dynamic in an earlier video that I made just prior, about the victim-persecutor dynamic that plays out. I think it's called Liberation from Conflict. So you can watch a bit more about this concept in that video. But suffice to say for the moment that I'm thinking of a particular person in my life who may feel that I've done wrong to them, and I definitely feel that I have not. And if that person was to turn around and say to me, "I forgive you," I would be outraged, because that implies I've done wrong. Okay, so that's where this coupling of wrongness and forgiveness has come in. These two concepts have been coupled. So I was kind of reflecting on this in this particular relationship, because it's one that I continue to learn from and grow from, and really deepen my understanding of what it means to love another human being. And I found that a better phrase for forgiveness is, "I release you from my anger." Now, I like that, because what that's really doing, that phrase, is... Okay, so the word release, first of all, it's a letting go. It is an aspect of forgiveness, because to truly forgive means you wipe the slate clean, right? There are levels of forgiveness. You can forgive but still not forget. You know, that's that phrase, "I forgive you but I will never forget." Well, in my head or my heart, that's not true forgiveness. I feel like forgiveness at its purest vibration, remember everything is a vibration, an energetic vibration, at its purest is complete exoneration, complete absolving of any wrongdoing, of any history that may then taint the future relationship. That is forgiveness at its highest level. That forgiveness is, it's actually so high that I came across a little interesting fact about forgiveness as I was reading on the subject throughout many years of exploring it, was that forgiveness was only expected in the Hindu culture, with the Indian people, the Hindu culture being their major religion. Forgiveness was only expected of the Brahmin, who were the priests, the high priests. So it was only expected of that caste, which was believed to be able to forgive at that level. It was a big, high thing to do. And even in Christianity, we see like Jesus was able to forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Ultimate forgiveness, right? So it is exoneration. And the word release also carries that frequency of I release you. So it's a letting free. There are no ties and cords attached to this storyline that we have been sharing, because it takes two to tango, doesn't it? When we're talking about forgiveness, we're always talking about at least two people, at least. Often entire cultures and countries that need to forgive each other. So this word release, I release you from my anger. And this is the critical part, is that really what we're saying is the anger is mine. I have created this anger. It's a way of expressing your responsibility for your emotional response. Now, in this situation with this person in my life, I don't believe that I've done wrong, but I would certainly agree that the person is angry with me. Right? They're two separate things, because wrongness in itself is not a part of the higher frequency paradigm. There is no right or wrong at the highest level. No right or wrong. And that's actually something that's really hard for people to accept. I know when I've presented that idea before, when I've been chatting to someone who's a bit distressed or feels that they want forgiveness or they need to forgive somebody else, it can just be hard for the mind to wrap their head around this idea that there's no wrong. Because we come to this earthly form and we see things that we judge as wrong. I know that the little Louisa ego part of myself sees hurting animals as wrong. To take a very black and white issue, factory farming chickens is wrong. I drive past a poultry farm often on my way to work, and I can see those great big sheds and I know what's in them. And my way of kind of helping with that, I suppose, is to visualize the liberation of those animals, to visualize humanity releasing this idea that we have dominion over nature and that we can treat anything like that. So that's my way of mitigating, I suppose, that sense of judgment over this thing that I'm seeing. But at the same time, and this is where we're multidimensional beings, we're capable of holding these thoughts. On the one hand, little Louisa, that's wrong. When I say little Louisa, that's egoic Louisa, little human Louisa. That's wrong. But on a higher perspective, nothing is wrong, because everything here has been seeded with free will. Every soul that came into this planet, whether you are a chicken or a human being or a blade of grass, you have accepted this form for your personal growth, for your lessons, for your spiritual involvement. You've accepted it, or to help sometimes. Sometimes there are souls that have come in purely to help, but even that is for their spiritual involvement. There's this a spectrum of beings, and on the one hand there is a service to self energy, which is someone who does things all for themselves. It's all about me. And on the other hand, there is a service to all energy, and those beings have come in with that energy, service to all, assisting everybody. So we've chosen these forms, we've come into this earthly realm, this third dimensional existence, which is the physical existence. And some of us have chosen to be hurt and wronged in the play of life, for it to seem that way, for injustices to occur, to play the victim, to in some cases be killed or maimed or hurt. We've had many, many lifetimes of this drama going on, of playing the villain, playing the victim, swapping roles. As when you start to do some work on your past lives, when you begin to, either memories start to flood back of the way that you were interrelated with certain people that are in your life right now, or you perhaps go to an energy healer or a past life regression person that can assist you, facilitate your spirit to provide the information to you consciously of these past lives, you will see this dynamic. You will see how you were the mother, father, brother of these people that are very important to you. And sometimes if your awareness is expanded enough, you can see how in this life you play a villain to other people, even if you think you're the angel, right? These are like, each human experience is like its own drama going on, its own play, its own reality bubble that intersects with other people's reality bubbles. And when we finally all come off the stage, when we pass through the fourth dimension into the dimensions beyond, either through death or through ascending in the body, which is what many of us are doing at this time, we will see with crystal clarity that it was a play, that it was a drama that we created to learn from and to assist each other. So for anyone who has worked in the theatre, you'll know what it's like when you step on a stage and you fully take on a role. And a lot of actors love to take the villain role because it's kind of fun to get yourself in the shoes of a villain. But then you come off the stage and you're best friends with the person that you were the villain to. And that's what it's like. At a higher level, we are each of us actually expressing love. There's nothing else. There's only love. And part of being here on this earth is to see how much we can love despite. So forgiveness then. I release you from my anger. That, I think, is the clearest and most true vibration that I can personally find for this idea of forgiveness. Because whenever I say I forgive you, again it brings up that idea that you've done wrong. But if we're all here on a stage, then no one's done wrong. That would be a little like going backstage with the villain character and saying, sitting that person down and going, I forgive you for all that. And the villain going, but I was playing a role. I was just doing what I was meant to do. Do you see? So I release you from my anger. Well, that's a more true and accurate record, because let's say the actor who's been wrong done, who's been playing the victim, comes off the stage and still holds that anger to say, I release you from my anger. Well, that's a good thing to do, yes. I draw a line because I want to move into a new story with you. Not just with you, but the whole of humanity. If we want to ascend, if we want new earth here, heaven on earth, that is already here, but if we, each of us, want it in our own personal realities, we cannot bring the old stories with us. We cannot do it. It doesn't coexist. The frequency of new earth energy is so beautiful beyond what we've been so used to on this planet, and so light and so pure that it simply cannot be a home to the negative frequencies. We can't bring the stories with us. So if you're feeling blocked or held back, and a lot of us, we mentally, heart-wise, desire a beautiful life with peace and harmony with others, but something is holding us back. It could well be threads, if you go deep down into your own story, threads of non-forgiveness, of holding on, of resentment. Imagine them like anchors that go down through the ocean of your subconscious and hook into the seabed below. That's what it's like. They're holding you down. Or another analogy is that of a hot air balloon with all of its strings, that have to be one by one cut. Now, one of the people that you may need to forgive is yourself. Many of us carry, probably it would be safe to say all of us have had lives where we've done wrong. Our forgiveness may not be needed for this life. We may need to forgive ourselves for things we've done prior. Sometimes we need to forgive ourselves when we were the victim, not the villain. It's pretty easy to see if we've hurt somebody that perhaps we should forgive ourselves, release ourselves from our own anger. But if we played the victim, we may also need to forgive ourselves for not being able to stand up to our perpetrator, for not speaking our truth, for whatever it is, for turning away when someone else needed us. You'll know. Our personal stories probably all contain some element of resentment against another or resentment against ourselves. So I'm hoping that idea of releasing yourself from anger or releasing others from anger assists you. I'd also say to be patient and kind with yourself, because forgiveness is a long journey of careful untying of the many knots. That old pattern of resentment will come up again into your field again and again and again until you've fully released it. So you'll get plenty of chances to work at this. It's not something you can just quickly do. It also pays, I think, to understand that you go through many stages of emotions before ultimate exoneration, ultimate letting go can really be achieved. There might be some anger to process, probably is some anger to process. Anger at the person, anger at the invalidation or the injustice or whatever it is that you're feeling. So the emotions, I guess the lower emotions that accompany this concept of forgiveness will need to be worked through, each of them. Anger, grief, crying for what was lost, for what could have been. My grief over those innocent chickens is something that, I still get challenged with now and then. Mostly it's been resolved because I now understand the soul choices that are occurring on the planet, and I also understand that your humanity is evolving beyond that kind of behavior, and also that humanity is only doing what has been done to humanity. So, much as chickens are farmed for food, so it is that human emotions are farmed by other entities, extraterrestrial beings, and sometimes by human beings. So there's been a lot of dominion and control going on this planet, and the patterns are fractal. When something happens in the microcosm, it's also happening in the macrocosm. So that's again why it is extremely powerful work to do this forgiveness stuff, because if you can set yourself free from your own anger that you're holding, it's going to have this incredible ripple effect in the matrix, and the person that you forgive, if you're working with another person specifically, that will have a huge effect on them as well. You're essentially cutting cords that have possibly been holding that person, unless they've done a lot of their own work. So once again, hugely complex subject. I always feel like when I make these videos that there's so many things to be explained, but then again there probably isn't, because I've got to trust that that this is only a surface presentation, and that the deeper knowledge and the nuances reside within you. I know the nuances and deeper knowledge for myself, extracting that out through my throat chakra to share with you, through my voice, through my mind and my heart to present something. Well, I'm aware that it's only teeny tiny bit of that full information, but hopefully just these videos alone will then activate the knowing within you, and something will go aha, and then you can access the rest of it yourself. That's how we all teach and learn. Look, I'm getting wet now, which is fantastic. It's raining again in Australia, so we need the rain. I'm very excited about that. But it's starting to get a little bit heavy and I'm worried about my camera, so I will leave it at that. I hope that was useful. I'm going to be back really soon to make a couple more videos on setting intentions for the new year, and some other amazing things that I've been learning about lately. So lots and lots of love and best wishes for the coming days and weeks of the solstice portal. Take a few deep breaths. Allow yourselves to open to what is here. There's energy codes, the light codes are very strong. They are available, they can be received. In stillness and through asking. That's all you need. All right. Lots of love. Namaste.